To approve the impact.
We are unmuted and live.
Okay,
Madam Clerk.
yes. Good evening. I'd like to call the Riverside City Council meeting to order at 6 p.m. At this time, I would ask for a motion for Councilmember Mike Denning to preside as pro tempore for tonight's meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Denning,
Here.
Mrs. Franklin,
Here.
Ms. Fry, Mr. Joseph,
Here.
Ms. Lomach, Mr. Maxfield,
Present.
Mayor Williams.
Motion. Second.
Motion to approve
Motion
absent,
by
absent
Mrs.
members.
Franklin,
Mrs. Franklin, second by Mr. Maxfield.
Maxfield.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda, Mr. Manager? Nothing substantive. The only change is to resolution 23-R-2863. The contents of that resolution have changed from a mixture of grant and loan requests from OPWC to only a grant request. And I'm happy to provide more details when we get to that item on the agenda.
Motion approved. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Maxfield.
No,
and
a motion
second
by
Mr.
Zach.
Joseph.
Either one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Mr. Maxfield, would you lead, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, I think we've all had a chance to read the minutes. I would.
Motion
accept a
approved.
motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by
Mr. Maxfield.
Ms. Franklin, second by Mr. Joseph. Whichever. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. If you wish to speak during the meeting, there are petitions in the back to fill out and we will get to them at the appropriate time. You need to bring them up to the clerk and so that we have all the information. Okay, Mr. Manager. Your show. Thank you, sir. I will begin with an update from the finance department. And I guess it'll be Mr. Garrett this evening.
Maybe you wanted to give it.
It's all yours. It's your show.
Well, I only have brief comments and that we spent a lot of time working on those assessments, which we're going to get to later on in the meeting. And we spent this week hosting the audit team. So they spent 3 days in here doing their data collection for the audit. Now they're, of course, we go review it and offer us their draft report here fairly soon.
And thanks to everyone on the finance team for all of their hard work this week. It's a lot of running back and forth from conference rooms to file cabinets and computers. And I appreciate all of their diligence through that process. Any questions for council? Moving on, we'll turn it over to Ms. Holt and Community Development.
Good evening. Just a few things. Our department has been preparing for the new property maintenance code to go effect, which is Monday. We are getting the tools that Rob, our code enforcement officer, needs, new tags, getting our system updated with the new violation numbers, and that should be ready to be in place by Monday. Some good news, we were awarded a grant from the Source Water Protection Fund Board, and we will be getting money to put signs about the sensitive groundwater throughout the city in the source water protection area. So we're working with them to finalize that. And when that's done, we'll have more updates for you on that process. Lori Minnick wrote and got us to the process to be awarded for the Ohio EPA Technical Assistance Grant. That kickoff meeting was the 15th of this month. So we're really excited to have their help on that and get that project moving forward. The last thing I want to share with you is we had an intern this summer in the community development department, and she shared some words about her experience that I want to share with you all today. So if you bear with me. This summer, this is the post from her sorority, Sophie got to spend the summer as a community development intern with the city of Riverside. This is the quote from Sophie herself. I spent my time doing research on potential economic development in the area and compiling recommendations for the new architectural standards for the city. Overall, it was an amazing experience, and I'm planning on attending graduate school to stay in the urban development field. So we have someone who wants to stay in government just after a summer with the city of Riverside. So really happy that I can
Encourage
change
that?
it. Yeah, in some
Good.
young person's
Good
life. So that's all I have for this evening.
And a big thank you to Naya and the community development team again for their grace and their efforts in working with folks like Sophie to help advance our goals, but at the same time give people who are coming up in the profession a shot and a taste of what it's really like to work in the trenches. So thank you again.
Administrative Department.
So I'll knock out these last two just very briefly. We are, I believe, I'm going to go ahead and make a commitment that the finance team might kick me under the table for, but I am really positive that we'll be at a place to show our new budgeting modules, at least the personnel budgeting module in the September work session. So here in a few weeks, we've made a lot of progress on that, especially over the last couple of weeks or so. I'm very excited about what that tool is going to do. I'm gonna really nerd out about it. So you have that to look forward to in September. Yep, and we have not, I had been working with Clemens Nelson, like we talked about last week, to try to wrap up the deliverables, the executive summary for our class comp study. They are very, very close. I do not have it in hand just yet. I'm, like I said, hopeful that we will get it here over the next day or early next week, and that will be shared with council as well. The final thing is that our agenda for September 7th is very light, kind of feast or famine around here at the moment. But we are in a position where we don't, all the pressing business that we have to do has to be done before September, which is why tonight's agenda is a bit lengthy. So in light of that, I would ask council for a motion to cancel the September 7th meeting, and we would reconvene then on the 14th for a work session. If any business comes up that we do have to attend to, we can make that 14th meeting a special meeting and knock out an item or two should that happen.
Do I need a
Move
motion?
to Cancel the September 7th
I'll-
business meeting.
Business meeting, yep.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Joseph, a second by Mr. Maxfield. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I have one question. The ordinance that we're passing tonight, just the first reading, is there a time? Is that time sensitive that we get the second reading done fairly quickly, or?
On a rezoning,
Rezoning?
I don't believe so.
That's for.
We're
what?
talking with the developer, and we're going to continue to work with them and set up a meeting with the TRC in between the two readings.
But as far as, and
Do we need to get it passed on the 7th, or will, do we need to pass it on the 14th?
yeah, I'll actually look at Miss Grandjean if I could real briefly. Sorry to put you on the spot. Is there a requirement that you're aware of to pass, if we have a first reading tonight and then wait a month? Or we're within our rights to do that, correct? Yeah, so there's
I'm
not
more
a,
concerned about,
Yeah.
we need to get it passed so
Yes.
that they can move forward.
oh, I understand.
what he's-
Apologies.
That's what I was.
Yeah, it's not about.
Yeah, I got
it's
hung
not
up on the
about us.
legality.
I wasn't worried about,
Nice
I was
gentlemen.
worried about
This
getting it
nice
passed so
gentleman
they could
sitting
move
here.
forward and with their plans.
Right. No, and I think from a staff perspective too, we are certainly understanding of the fact that everybody wants to move very quickly. There is a planning commission process, if I'm not mistaken, that accompanies this as well. So the short answer is that by moving our second read back, the timing will still work out with where things need to go through planning commission. So we are not adding time
Okay.
by putting,
All right.
the second reading.
I
off.
just wanted to make sure that we weren't slowing things down by.
Right.
By skipping
Yep.
something.
Sorry for my confusion there.
All right, thank you. Do we have any,
Radio.
or,
This will be for later.
okay,
Yes.
so it's on okay,
He wants an agenda item. Oh,
well,
yeah, he probably should speak now then.
okay,
'Cause he's going to be the one where there's no talk.
okay, so. Does he want it? Okay, so there's not a
there's not a
hearing,
pub-
so
Right, there's
he can
not.
go ahead and speak now.
Yeah. 'cause this-
Okay, Mr. Nick Davis.
Hi, my name's Nick Davis. work for MSD Inc. I'm the Vice President of Business Development. Here with these fine gentlemen here tonight. We're really excited to be here. First of all, we want to thank you for your time. Our position is we're requesting a rezoning request to go from R3 medium density to B2 in the general business district. As an established business since 1984, we've been on Springfield Street for over 40 years. We are extremely excited to remain part of this wonderful community as we look to expand our business operations. This request allows us to move only our office personnel directly across the street into this proposed land. Strictly office, all of our other operations will remain at our current structure. We also have another building down the street here in Riverside that we would also like to keep as well. This rezone will allow us to remain here for the foreseeable future as our business continues to grow and develop. This is also our premier location because it allows us to serve Wright-Patterson Air Force Base along with the majority of our service clients within the Dayton community. So we truly appreciate your time, your consideration. We're here to answer any questions you may have about what's being proposed, but we definitely thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do you have any friends who need office spaces?
Yeah.
Got plenty. We're flush with office space.
Okay. On with old business,
Finished.
unfinished business. I'm sorry. I'm using my JC.
Yes.
This will be the second reading and public hearing and final adoption. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the second reading and final adoption of the ordinance number 230833. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maxfield, second by Ms. Franklin. At this time, clerk, please read the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance 230833, an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction and repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances associated with the 2021 paving program.
I now open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to comment on ordinance number 230833. Please state your name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing no one and no one, I close the public hearing at
613.
6:13. Is there any further discussion by members of council? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Denning.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, we get to do this again.
Mhm.
At this time, I entertain a motion to approve second reading
motion
and
to
final
approve.
adoption of ordinance number 230835.
Second.
A motion.
Mr. Maxfield.
Maxfield and Mr. Joseph.
Mhm.
Clerk, will you please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230835, an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Riverside, Ohio, by lighting the same with electricity.
I now open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to comment on ordinance number 230835. Seeing no one. I close the public hearing at
614.
6:14. Is there any further discussion by members of council? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Denning.
Yes, motion passes. This time, I'll entertain a motion to approve second reading and final adoption of ordinance number 230836.
April, your turn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Franklin, second by Mr. Maxfield.
Can't get the
Clerk.
word out of my mouth.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230836, an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction and repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances associated with the 2022 paving program.
Now open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to comment on ordinance number 230836. Please state your name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
You guys want to come up and talk about special assessments for curbs and sidewalks? Feel free.
Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion from council? Although, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Denning.
Yes. Motion passes. And last but not least, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve second reading and final adoption of ordinance number 230837.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Joseph, second by Mrs. Franklin. Madam Clerk, will you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 230837, an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction and repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances associated with the 2022 paving program. And this, I believe, is the further extension, the 10-year?
Correct. This is for the folks that asked for hardship
Yes.
consideration.
Just want to make that clear since I just read that title twice.
I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to comment on ordinance 230837. Seeing none. I'll close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion from council? Everybody understand that we did this twice, one for 5 year and one. for
Yeah,
10.
one's for the,
That's why
the-
we've got two looking the same.
that's what the county.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mr. Denning.
Yes, motion passes.
You only got one more.
Okay, so now we're on, do you have any information for us on this ordinance, Mr. Manager?
This ordinance is the rezoning for the property parcel that the gentleman spoke about earlier over on Fairfax.
Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Franklin, second by Mr. Joseph. Madam Clerk, will you please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230838, an ordinance approving a change in the district boundaries as shown on the zoning map of the city of Riverside, Ohio for parcel ID numbers I 390011500014, 0015, 0023, 0024, I 390011600013, and 0014 from R3 medium density residential district to B2 general business district.
Is there any discussion from council?
I mean, just for the record, I mean, staff is recommending this change.
Yes,
And the planning commission as well.
and the
Yep.
planning commission was also approved it.
Yep. no further questions.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mr. Denning.
Yes, motion passes. Okay,
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming.
So now we have resolutions, resolution number 23R2862. Mr. Manager, you want to give us, you got anything for us?
This is the customary grass and nuisance abatement ordinance that we send off to the county to put assessments on for those charges.
You have a
So-
motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Franklin, second by Mr. Maxfield. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Resolution 23R2863. Mr. Manager.
This is the one I referenced at the beginning of the meeting. So the initial formulation of this resolution that went to council, and I believe that we talked about last week, contemplated an OPWC grant for Woodman Phase 1. That's from Eastman south to the bridge. The initial thought was to apply for about $1.5 million in grant and about $500,000 in loan. Ms. Bartlett worked very diligently this week with the original engineers, with our new engineers, and they all agreed that the project area will score well based on the conditions of the site, the past accident history at the site. And they're very confident that we can successfully ask for the entirety of the amount as a grant. And so the resolution that is before you, all it does is it removes that loan component and instead will authorizes us to ask OPWC to fully fund the project as a grant.
And that doesn't preclude us, if they don't give it to us, from getting loans later, correct?
Correct. It should this fail, I should say, should OPWC decline to fund this project with grants, our backup option would be to go through the state to try to get state infrastructure bank loans, or to pursue another funding vehicle to help bridge that gap.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Franklin, a second by Mr. Maxfield. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next resolution, Mr. Manager.
The next resolution authorizes changes to the clerk of council's compensation, as discussed previously at various meetings.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and a second by Mr. Maxfield and Mrs. Franklin. All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Well, hold on a second.
Motion passes. Next resolution, Mr. Manager.
The next resolution involves accepting a Bureau of Workers Compensation grant. This is for chairlifts to assist personnel transports, and Chief Taylor, if you have anything you'd like to add with respect to that, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. This is a Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation Safety Intervention Program grant. We've received it before for various things, but this one we'll be buying basically. You remember a few years ago, we bought the power cots that lift up and down with a battery powered automatically. These are stair chairs that virtually do the same thing on a track. So we'll be buying 2 of these for the frontline medics. It's a 3-to-1 match, so our cost is from the city budget will be 1/4 of the total cost. The grant was 24,000 plus, and then we'll have another 8-ish thousand coming out of our budget. So
You have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maxfield, second by Mrs. Franklin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 23R 2866, Mr. Manager.
This is the resolution addressing the compensation policy for the city as discussed at the prior work session.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Franklin, second by Mr. Joseph. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 23R 2867, Mr. Manager.
And this is this resolution authorizes us to accept the state grant award for first responders retention. I believe I mentioned this last week as well. The award is for just over 91,000 in the fire department and about 116 in the police department. The city serves as a pass-through for those grant funds that come from the state. But I certainly want to acknowledge all the work that our command staff has put into procuring and working with the state to get these grants. It's a tremendous asset, I think, for us, and a way for us to recognize all the valuable work that our first responders do.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Franklin, second by Mr. Joseph. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any petitions for,
No.
all right,
All the people.
council member comments? Mr. Joseph, we'll start with you.
Mike, you did a fantastic job of coming in as third chair here in the meeting. Ms. Llewellyn, I think very rightfully so. The resolution that had your name attached to it. I appreciate everything that you do for us, keeping us in line. I'll put on the record, talking about your Athenian that you just won and being one of the 25 people in
26.
26 people in the 5 states
In
with
the region,
in the, what was the organization?
the International Institute of Municipal Clerks.
Yeah, so that's huge. So I appreciate everything that you do for the city. You keep us all in line and informed of everything going on. Also to all the other things, this is a big, heavy meeting. And I think that, all of this text that I see on this page is hours and hours of work that you all put in to make all those things happen. The grant funding, special assessments, Josh, you keeping the ship moving. So if you don't hear it enough, thank you for everything that you guys do on a daily basis. And that's all I have. Sinking. The ship.
Thank you.
Well, we don't get the
Councilmember
roads
Franklin.
I just mess, I'm just messing.
We don't get that grant
For the
funding from
tremendous
Woodman
vote.
Phase
I
One.
think, I think you're all amazing. I think there's been a lot of things that have happened in the last couple of years and it's been all uphill.
Moving forward, yes.
Mrs. Franklin?
I don't have any, I think I spoke already.
No. Just, obviously did on what Zach and April said, but other than that, everybody have a great evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, Mike didn't get to say.
Yeah.
it. Let's back
I
up.
unmotion my motion.
You withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
I don't have anything. No, I did. Don't forget the farmer's market this Saturday from 1:30 to 3 over at the J.C.'s area. People need to, it's still, we're questioning whether or not it's worthwhile. So if you want to participate, either selling or buying, please come over and support the folks that are taking their time to make that happen. That's all I've got. So Chair will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion, Mrs. Franklin, second by Mr. Joseph. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. We're done.
30 minutes.